Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 9 of English 200, 201, and 202. So this week, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the project I've been working on for the last 5 years. For the last 5 years, I've been writing the first ever book-length biography about Charmian Kittredge London. Charmian Kittredge London, and you can see her right here smiling. This is off the island of Ratea, near Tahiti in the South Seas. She was Jack London's wife, and she lived a pretty extraordinary life even before she met Jack London. But the history really hadn't remembered her. I came across the project while I'm a Jack London scholar, so that means I research and write about Jack London. And I first discovered Jack London when I was in the 6th grade. I went on a field trip and to Jack London State Historic Park with my class. And while I was there, I'd always written and I've always been a writer. Basically, that's all I've ever done with my time. And when I was at the park, I finally saw an example of someone who lived his life as a writer. And I noticed how both Jack and Charmian, wrote and traveled the world. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, that's what I'm going to do with my life. So flash forward to years later, I was teaching a workshop at Jack London State Historic Park. We did a reading series, a book club. And so one of the books that we decided to teach was one of Charmian's books. It's called The Book of Jack London. And it's a biography that she wrote. It's a 2-volume biography she wrote about Jack just a couple years after he died, pretty suddenly. He died at age 40. And so when I was reading the biography, I thought, wow, she really knows what she really knew this man. But the way that she had been depicted in all the other biographies that I'd read about her, she was kind of an airhead. She wasn't intellectual. She didn't really help her husband's career. And she wasn't really his partner. She was just kind of pretty or not, and doing her own thing, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to research her and find out about her life. So I started doing research and found such a different story told through the primary documents that I was doing. So when you go about writing a biography, it's a really interesting progress. You start with a question of like who this person is, and you have kind of an idea. So you read the biographies that exist and try to understand who everyone thinks this person is. And then you go back to the primary documents. You go back to diaries and, public records like census records and things like that. You go back to letters. You go back to all of these things. And then in Charmian's case, you go back to find all the writing that she published in her lifetime that had been forgotten. So what I did was I did that research, and through that research, I created a timeline that was essentially everything that happened in her life that I found and connected it to documents. This is all before I even began writing. Now, this is a long process. This is a book-length process, right? This is not what I expect of you this week. I'm just giving you an example of if you ever wanted to write a biography, this is the process you take. Because your job is to recreate, as a biographer, your job is to recreate someone's life. And that takes a lot of detail work. When it gets to the actual writing, though, you still have to approach it like you approach any other creative nonfiction piece, right? You want to set up scenes. You want to create tension. You want to use imagery. You want to connect with the reader and make them, feel sensory details. So basically, that's what I've been working on the last couple of years. And so what I put together for you is one of my chapters, which talks about it's actually what I've posted here is a video on YouTube, so you don't have to just hear me reading it aloud to you. I gave this as a talk at the park last fall, and what this chapter is about, it's about Charmian's life before she met Jack London. And for those of you who don't know, Jack London was a famous author who wrote Call of the Wild amongst many other books. But this chapter talks about Rainbow City and the Pan American Exposition of 1901 in Buffalo, New York, where actually the president had been killed a month before Charmian went to this exhibition. So it's really a fascinating time in the country. And it's also really interesting because Charmian's traveling on her own as a woman during a time when that was thought of, across the country and into Europe, during a time when that was thought of as being just, outrageous. So these are some pictures of Rainbow City. If you click on the video, you'll see I'm going to read an excerpt from this chapter in the video. I've also posted that chapter, an excerpt from it, as part of the content for this week. So go ahead and read that, take a look at it, and ask me any questions you have about writing biography. If it's something you're interested in. I'm actually thinking about, in the future, developing a class based on biography. So something to think about. If you think that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. It's good to know if people would benefit from a class like that. So what we're focusing on this week is writing from research. And that's exactly what I was doing in a really extreme case. But we're going to look at it in a very different case this week in Annie Dillard's essay, Total Eclipse. It begins on page 325 in the book, and it talks about what it's like to travel to watch a complete solar eclipse. It's an extraordinary, experience, and it's happened quite recently. Annie Dillard wrote about it. Actually, Virginia Woolf wrote a really fascinating piece about it as well. Annie Dillard's thought of as one of our great nature writers. So it's interesting to see her write about the total eclipse. She experienced the total eclipse firsthand when she wrote about it. And then after she experienced it, she went back and did research about the eclipse and about the area and about what happened. So it's a longer essay, but it's really fascinating. So this week, your reading includes watching the video, my talk, that's posted under content for this week, and then reading Annie Dillard's essay on total eclipse, and then thinking about how she seamlessly integrates all of the research she does so that you don't actually even see it or feel it when you're reading the essay. Now, when you look at my research, you'll see there's footnotes and things like that, so it's a different style. When you're doing your work this week, I want you not put in footnotes, okay? I want you to have fun with it. So this is a two-part exercise. Excuse me. First part is you're going to choose a topic that you know very little about, and I want you to research it. Kind of like learn from the facts, but always try to remember the people. The people are the story, okay? And I want you to make a list of your own, not posted in your writing journal, where you try to discover a topic that you don't know much about, but you want to learn more about. So just kind of, think about it and fill out the questions that you see over on the right-hand side of the page. I've always wanted to. I'd be afraid to. I'd never seem to have time to. When I was a child, I loved to blank, but I have nothing. So this exercise is to help you kind of find a topic that you want to write about. So fill out this list first, and then choose a topic from this list or just from free writing, right? That you're interested in topping and that you're interested in researching, okay? The whole point of the beginning of this is just to discover a topic, and you are not writing a regular research paper. Like, this is not something you're going to go out and find sources for and stuff like that. I want you to be creative on this, okay? So after you discover your topic, I want you to research your topic, and I want you to do so by going to the library or using the online access to the library at Napa Valley College. You can, or do some investigative reporting. I want you to use what you find out to write an essay, an interesting essay that takes a look at this topic in some way. But I don't want you to report back what you've learned. Rather, I want you to show us something in a new light. Once you show us what it was like, I want you to tell us what it was like for you to discover this new thing. What has it taught you about yourself? Or Take an angle on how you tell us the story of this research. Don't just give us a research paper, okay? Be creative. Use all your tools that you have that we've been working on in creative writing this entire time, all right? As you're going through writing creative nonfiction, the first stage is you develop a draft, and then you think about in your draft you're going to structure. You're going to outline, imagining the entire story structure, like what is the end that you're trying to get to, and see your way towards it, right? Or you can quilt. You can work from an image or an idea and kind of flip between these as you flesh out your piece. This is the way I work, okay? Research. Don't read about the period. Read in the period. So if you're writing about a time period, read people writing about it in that time period. Don't just read what somebody from our time period is thinking about it. Don't take notes when you're doing research at all, okay? Totally don't take notes. And don't research beyond the period that you're writing about. I just want you to read what you read and absorb it. It's the way you're going to fuel your creativity, to read what you read and then absorb it. After, when you're actually writing, I want you to, after you've written your first draft, like that's your first draft, then you want to come back to it and do some revising. So get to know your piece in order to open it up to new possibilities. If you feel stuck, put your piece away and come back to it later and ask yourself, what is this piece about? Is the language fresh? Is it clear? Where is it too long? Where is it underdeveloped? Does it end? When you're editing, I want you to address clarity, precision, continuity, and flow. You can have someone else look at it, and you can take it to the writing center even, right? They love to read it. Do line edits though, spelling, punctuation, grammar. You got to think about those things before you turn it in. All right, guys. This week, you are only doing your research essay because it's going to take some time. And I want you to really do a good job with it, okay? I'll put details up under the assignment for this week as to how long it needs to be, things like that. But I want you to plan out spending some time discovering a topic, researching that topic, and then writing a draft and then revising that draft so that it's a more polished piece. If you have questions, as always, come see me in my office hours. I will not be on campus on Tuesday because I'm going to be in New York giving a reading, which is very exciting. But I will be there on Thursday if you have questions. But you can always send me an email and I will do my best to answer you as soon as possible. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Otherwise, I will see you online.